This is a production of the Gold Arrow Podcast Network. Hello, and welcome to the Gold Arrow Camp POG-Cast, a podcast for friends of Gold Arrow Camp. Throughout the year, we join you to bring your day some of what makes Gold Arrow special. Our goal is to help you have fun, make friends, and grow throughout the year, not just when you're at GAC. Since we can't get together in real life, we gather here, around the virtual campfire. We have some of your favorite parts of morning assembly. We also have interviews with experienced campers and some of your favorite counselors. We think it's a lot of fun, and we're glad you joined us here on the podcast. This is episode 69, where we have a great chat about camp, GACting, and arts and crafts with a dynamic duo, Penguin and Spotlight. Penguin and Spotlight are two friends who are both campers and counselors, and you might think from hearing them talk in this interview that they were friends for a long time before camp, or maybe they became friends over multiple years as campers. But as you'll hear in the interview, they didn't even meet each other until staff training last summer, and they kind of immediately became fast friends, which is, I think, a testament to the power of making friends at camp and the connections we build at camp. They talk about that, as well as about how camp has changed their lives. They also dissect some of their favorite Big Campfire skits of all time. I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I did. Here's my interview with Penguin and Spotlight. Oh, welcome to the Gold Arrow Podcast, Penguin and Spotlight. What's up, guys?
Hello.
Hey.
I'm so good. You guys are, it's like reuniting BFFs, but only on the podcast, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, yeah, we've kept in touch since leaving camp, but yeah, this is the first time we actually get to see each other really face to face.
Miss you.
Right?
Me too.
Listen, we're just connecting people, whether they're campers or counselors. It's what we're in the connections business.
Yeah.
Well, this is fun because I did reach out to staff, like a little behind the curtain for people who listen. I reached out to staff and said, "Who wants to be on the podcast?" And a bunch of people replied, and like Spotlight signed up, and then she's like, "Hey, can Penguin do it with me?" I was like, "Yes, sure. I've got no problem with that." So, if you want to listen to Penguin in a solo podcast, you can do that. You can look in last season's Gold Arrow Camp podcast. That's where Penguin was featured. And if you want to hear all about Spotlight, you can hear it in this one, because this is where she'll be. So we'll get to hear all about that. But to begin, and we'll go in the order, Penguin, then Spotlight. Can you start? Who are you and what do you do for camp?
My name is Penguin. I'm an arts and crafts counselor at camp. And I'm an arts and crafts counselor, but I also do all land stuff.
All land stuff. If it
land
walks
stuff.
on land and it's not a horse, Penguin can teach it.
It's me. No, I do horses sometimes.
Oh.
I'm there. I'm all land stuff. Don't even.
She's all the land. Spotlight, are you all of the land or just some of the land?
I'm some of the land. I don't think I can go as far as horses, but I'm some of the land, basically. Yeah. Yeah, I'm Spotlight. I am a GACting, specifically GACting counselor, but I do some of the land.
Sure. And now we'll invert the order. So, Spotlight, you can start us off on this question. How'd you end up at GAC? Like, what's your GAC story?
Oh my goodness. So basically, I found camp at a camp fair. So in my town, they had this event where a bunch of camps came to this area and just presented,
Sure.
opportunities of like, oh, come to our camp. And at the time, me and my sister were looking for places to go to get out of our parents' hairs. And, we were looking around, and I instantly got drawn into Gold Arrow Camp's area where Sunshine was presenting the
Okay,
camp.
I was going to ask if you remembered who was there, because that's always the important camp fair question.
It
So,
was
Sunshine. Okay.
Yeah, it was Sunshine. It was super cool. Yeah, we met her. We got to know the camp a little better. And I was set in stone on going to this camp immediately once I saw it. My sister was kind of wandering. For those who don't know, my sister's Truffle. But she was wandering and wanted to originally go to farm camp. But she didn't realize that she actually had to do the work.
Yeah, it is a program with chores. Yeah, that's how farm camp works.
She just get the animals and observe. But as soon as she realized it was more than that, she's like, no, never mind. And so she got roped in with me. and came along with me to Gold Arrow Camp. And yeah, that's basically how we found Gold Arrow, and we've been there obviously ever since.
I say legitimately ever since.
Yes, literally.
Penguin, did we find you at a camp fair? I find that hard to believe since you're not from
No.
Southern California, and that's the only one we go to.
Yeah, I am from Utah, and my parents wanted to go to Europe for 2 weeks, so they looked up camps for 2 weeks, and then they sent me and my sister on our merry way.
That's so good.
It's exactly how it happened. They deny it, but that's what happened. So.
And listen, as a parent, I will be very open that we wanted our now 9-year-old, she was 8 at the time, we needed her to not be at camp during staff training because we didn't have like childcare for her. And so did we 100% look up camps that were operating sessions while we were in training that were ACA accredited and send her to one? 100% yes. Will I admit that to her? Maybe someday.
Eventually.
Not yet. She's going to hear the podcast and then she's going to be like, you did that. Okay. And you're both long timers, right? Like how many years, Penguin?
I just had my 6th year
And Spotlight?
last summer.
This was my 7th year.
Yeah. Like, so we're headed towards like long timers. So what has the impact, and you were both campers as you talked about. So like, obviously you've gotten both sides of the coin. And were you both JCs as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you did like all of it. Now that you're adults and you can kind of see kind of who you've become and what you're looking to do in the world, looking back, what was the impact of camp on that journey, I guess, to adulthood?
Spotlight, you go first.
She's like, hard question. Spotlight, take it.
No, Spotlight, go.
Well, I mean, yeah, the transformation going from camper to counselor is so fascinating. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, at the time as a camper, you have this little scope of all the activities and you're just kind of having fun, doing everything, you know, you're going wild. And going into counselor mode, you're learning these new perimeters and understanding this new perspective
Sure.
of the camp life. And yes, it's not sometimes as thrilling as the camper life, but it's in many ways there are so many great parts of being a counselor that I've enjoyed, that I finally got to enjoy this past summer.
Sure.
Yeah. Camp, when I was a camper, I was always fascinated by arts and crafts because I was like, people are good at art? This is crazy. I can be good at art?
Sure.
And then I went from knowing nothing about art, from camp kind of introducing me to that, and then becoming an arts and crafts counselor, making art all the time outside of camp, and just, yeah, so a whole new skill that I picked up. So,
well, and I think when I look at it for my kids and for campers in general, it's like you said, Penguin, you don't realize that, oh, this is a thing you can do as a job. And like camp counseling maybe isn't, it provides some examples. Like there aren't a ton of people who are like water skiing for a living, but you know, we employ a lot of people who teach water skiing for a living, right? And it's the same thing with arts and crafts. You know, there aren't a ton of people who are maybe making art purely as a living. It's more probably than water skiers. I think that's a smaller community. But you're right. Like for kids to see somebody who's like, no, my job here is to teach art, to teach drawing. This isn't something that people are inherently good at, right? There's a skill to this and you can learn it, which is all the activities, right? I think when I was a kid, certainly, I looked at any number of activities that I thought were cool. And I just assumed, oh, people just know how to do that. Right? People know how to ride a horse. People know how to climb rocks. And what we're saying through the system is, well, no, people learned how to do that. And teaching kids that these things are learned, I think, is a huge part. Well, it's the growth mindset, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying we talk a lot about the growth mindset.
I brought it into my daily life. My friends here at of the growth mindset.
This is, we were at a conference last week and people were giving me grief because they know I'm the guy who will just, when somebody says, well, we can't do that, I'm like, yet. Like, I don't even think about it. I'm just in a room with other professionals and I'm like, yet. And they're like, it's a growth mindset. You just can't yet.
Yeah. I think anything's possible. I mean, look at us. Like, we're counselors. When we used to be campers, anything's really possible.
When you're 9, there is no way you could ever be a counselor, right? Those people are so cool and so grown up, and they have figured the world out, and I could never be a counselor, which is so fun for me. It's one of my favorite parts when former campers come to staff training for the first time, and like obviously very excited, very happy, and also like you can look in their eyes and they're a little bit terrified that they have to be that person they looked up to for all those years.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I can be honest, I was terrified.
Yes!
I remember all of my previous counselors and thinking, oh, they're the best. They're so good at their job. I don't know how I'm going to live up to that.
Yes! Which is, if we're honest, like, as a person who hires a lot of the counseling staff, yes, that's the right attitude, because then you're going to work really hard to do a good job. And then we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Okay, so Penguin talked a little bit about arts and crafts, and I think most people have a fairly good idea about arts and crafts and what goes on there. GACting, on the other hand, Spotlight, is an absolutely made-up word.
Yeah.
It is not, you cannot look it up. If you right-click it in Google, Google's just like shrug emoji. So tell the people, what is GACting?
I'd love to. So GACting is this wonderful experience at Big Campfire where we come together and we literally go crazy. We let out the inner wild child.
Yes.
So we get together and we have dance parties, we play games. It's really an opportunity for the cabin to bond and be as silly as they want to be.
So like,
I feel like that's the best way of defining it.
well, I guess just because when we first started this program, it's one of our newer programs.
Yeah.
Right? I still don't totally understand, right? Like when you say playing games, like, is this like dodgeball? What kind of games?
So majority of the game. So with the term GACting, there is the acting part of it.
Okay. Yeah. It's a portmanteau.
Acting. So a lot of it is really improv games. I mean, a good example was we played this game of Good Evening, Your Majesty, and you had to identify someone's voice and you altered it. So it's like a form of like voice acting where
Sure.
you get to alter your voice in a sense. And they really get to use their imagination to bring out, you know, something that they normally wouldn't think of. And it's an opportunity for them to grow either as performers, as I guess performers is a good term, but like as actors, dancers, anyone who wants to get into the sense of entertainment. This is kind of their a little segue into that of getting to know what it's like and how crazy and silly you have to be a part of entertaining people. Also, it's a great place to learn how to build skits.
Yeah, because I was going to say, everybody has to be in the skit for Big Campfire. Like every camper is going to be on stage. That's the rule. So let's transition into Big Campfire. You're both campers. You've both now been in cabins as counselors. Penguin, we'll let you start. What's your favorite skit you've ever been a part of at camp?
Oh my gosh. It has to be the first skit I ever did. I was like 9. I was a bear, oldest bear. We had a counselor. I don't remember her name. And she desperately wanted us to do a dance what was it? She wanted us to do a dance to like the carpet ride song from Aladdin. She so badly wanted it. And then she got sick for 2 days. And all of our other counselors were like, this isn't going to work out. Like, we were 9-year-olds. We were not doing good. They were like, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah.
And this was before we had a crazy big stage. This was
on the old Big Campfire. Yeah, it's much smaller.
So we changed it from... At one point, we would stop doing the dance. We'd all freeze. And then we would start dancing to the song, Whip My Hair Back and Forth.
Oh, yes.
And then immediately everybody started cheering when the Whip Your Hair Back and Forth came on. And that was probably my favorite skit that I ever did.
And I assume you all whipped your hair back and forth.
Oh yeah, there's a picture of me like hair flying. Like,
yes.
It's on the campsite somewhere.
Perfect.
I'm sure.
All right, Spotlight, you had a ton of time to think while you were hearing the tale of Whip Your Hair Back and Forth. What's your favorite skit you've ever been a part of?
Literally, it's similar to Penguins, but it was my very first skit at camp. That was the very first one that popped in my head. Basically, what we did was we all decided to kind of do a Dancing with the Stars moment. So each of us paired up into like groups of 2, and one of us had like to be a celebrity. And I remember like I was like, who do I look like? And everyone was like, you should do Adele. I'm like, okay. So we found like black clothing at the time. I don't remember what album was out at that time, but I think we played Rumor Has It as the
Great.
song for us to dance to for my group. And they basically said, who's gonna win? I don't even remember who won, honestly.
Of course.
But it was a fun time. We got to like improv dance.
Oh yeah.
And
I think I would guess one of the reasons that first one stands out to both of you, and one of the reasons I think skits stand out in general, is like there are like 300 people watching. It's not a small crowd at Big Campfire. Like the kitchen comes to watch. Like everybody's there, but it's also a really supportive audience.
It's a familial thing.
Yeah. But like it's a legitimately supportive audience, and they'll cheer for anything. And like the thrill you get from being on stage and somebody like cheering, even when you're like, hey, this was kind of hokey and I don't look like Adele. But like for that little moment, you get a taste of like Adele gets a much bigger cheer, which she deserves. She's incredible.
Yes.
But
Spotlight, you will never be as good as Adele is.
you know what? I'm not going to say I don't know that you'll ever be the vocalist Adele is where I'm at. All right. We talked about impact of GAC, and you both and we talked about like transitioning into counselorhood. What was the impact of being a counselor on your life? Like, how has being a counselor kind of impacted your life? And we'll start with Spotlight because Penguin had to answer the skit one first.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it had a huge impact. I mean, like I said before, the dynamics of being a camper compared to a counselor is so different, and you really take on a lot of responsibility, but in the best ways of growing as a person. I truly felt like this past summer helped me grow as an individual compared to any other summer I've been at camp, because I learned so much different responsibilities and taking in more safety precautions, and it was honestly my favorite year I've ever been at camp.
It's so
Especially
good.
because I got to meet that one, Penguin.
All right, Penguin, working at camp, what's the impact there for you?
So I originally wanted to go into like elementary education and work with tiny children. Working at camp, I actually realized I bonded with the older kids better than I thought I was going to. They're very like everybody is delightful, so wonderful. I bonded with the older kids a bit better. So I like with education, it's definitely helped me grow a bit there and just figuring out what I want to do. Definitely been the best year I've spent here because it's the longest I've spent at camp. And like I guess it's because I'm a Spotlight. I'm probably.
I mean, that's part of the reason.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's why you wanted to be on together. No, I see. Best friends.
No, definitely.
It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's so funny because Penguin and I didn't know each other before this year.
Right. Yeah, you guys never overlapped, right?
We were put in the same tweet cabin and the same bunk bed. Completely random. That's just how it happened, and then immediately it was like, all right, and we're best friends, and we're not leaving each other's side ever. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, and I think it's just crazy, and that just shows the strength of camp. Like you've never met each other before, but in these like next few days, you're gonna instantly become like best friends.
Well, and
that's
like right, the cab exactly. It's literally what happens to campers. It's like, well, we were bunkmates, and then we decided we would be best friends. That happened to Ellie this summer when she was at a different camp. She was like, they got in the bed, and they were like, well, I guess we're friends now because I sleep on the top bunk and you sleep on the bottom. I guess that's how friendship works.
You're with each other every single day, seeing the exact same people compared to like the real reality where you're unable to see them every day, where I unfortunately can't see Penguin like I used to, but we still keep in touch because we were so close for those like past 3 months.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. It's time for the speed round. 5 questions we ask absolutely everybody who comes on the podcast. For answering simplicity, we will always go Penguin, then Spotlight. So it'll be Penguin, Spotlight, over and over and over again. Until the last question where you can talk at the same time because like we're real snug on time. So I don't know if we might cut the very end here. The speed round, starting with Penguin. What's your favorite camp song?
Favorite camp song is Princess Pat.
Great one. Spotlight.
The penguin song.
The penguin song. That's
wait,
what I
why
thought
didn't I say
Penguin
that?
would go with. Penguin, what's your favorite item on the salad bar?
The tiny beet cubes.
Yes, tiny beet cubes. Spotlight.
The croutons.
Croutons. Penguin, mallows or popcorn?
Mallows, 100%.
Spotlight.
Mallows.
She just nodded as though this podcast is a video medium. Penguin, favorite lip balm flavor?
Pineapple in place.
Pineapple in place. Love the title and the flavor.
Watermelon.
Watermelon. Yes, love it. And guys, what are your real names? Oh no, we're all out of time. I knew it would happen. It always happens. I've got to set aside more time for these interviews so we can get people's real names out there in the world. It's so hard to figure out. Nobody ever knows. For now, you'll have to be Penguin and Spotlight. Thank you so much for coming on the show, y'all.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yes.
In a world with far too much seriousness, far too much drama, we bring you something different. The joke of the cast. What do you call someone who gets very angry when they don't have any bread? Lactose intolerant. Because they can't have bread, so they lactose. That's a good one. I enjoyed that one. And I enjoyed this episode, guys. I think it was a really fun chat. I always love hearing about people who make friendships at camp. So, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, share with a friend. They don't even have to have come to camp. Maybe they just want to know about camp. The POG-Cast is a great way to learn a little bit about the people who work at camp. Thanks to Penguin and Spotlight for coming on the show. Really appreciate their time. And as always, thanks to you for being a part of the Gold Arrow Camp family. As always, I'm Soy, and I'll save a marshmallow for you.